well. So like for me personally, where I travel to and how I feel is just I want to travel. So there's taste, but then there's how you feel afterwards, right? There's
Absolutely.
traveling,
Yep.
and then there's how you feel when you travel, right?
Yeah.
And so those are my motivations for am I going to eat that again? Am I going to travel to that place again? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so, for instance, I used to go even to Croatia, and that's obviously in Europe, but for some reason, last time I was in Croatia, I felt pretty bad, and every time I ate, I was lethargic and tired and not feeling well. And this time, so I travel back and forth between the US and Italy. And, and when I'm in Italy, I feel real good. When I'm in the US, my body's inflamed. And I've been watching my diet for a while now, and now I know about inflammatory foods. That's been a huge category. Um,
Yep.
and but what I'm noticing is people are saying that they travel to Europe and they feel great and they can have dairy that they can't have in the US. They can
Yep.
have
They can have
gluten,
wheat.
they can have
Yep.
bread that they can't have in the US. And
No, we're
that's
not there.
crazy,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like maybe you don't have a wheat allergy, maybe it's something they're
Yeah.
putting on the wheat.
It's a combination of, I don't know if you watched that video that I showed you about the one about why wheat is bothering people. I have a whole video on this. I used to
Okay,
think
so
it
one
was just,
second. Can you introduce yourself first?
oh,
Like,
hi.
who are you? What's your
My name's
experience?
Amelia. I'm Amelia. I'll say Amelia South because that's going to be my last name as soon as the divorce is final. So yeah, it's Amelia South. I've been an organic farmer in Connecticut and Massachusetts. I worked in Massachusetts a few times. We are not family. Somebody asked. Um, I've been an organic farmer for the past
Uh-huh.
9 years, and I am a food advocate and I advocate for the buy local movement, which is buying local food, supporting local farms. And one of the biggest reasons I do that, it's not just to support local businesses, it's because that's the healthier way to eat if you're doing it right. And I've
Now,
been
have you had an experience that way? Because for me, right, like I didn't grow up eating organic or anything like that. Like I had ramen and all of this stuff. And then as I said in my video, my boyfriend was like trying to buy organic. I'm like, I don't want to spend the money for organic. And
yeah.
so for me, I gradually noticed, through, wait, I feel bad. What did I eat? I feel bad. What did I eat? What has been your journey to, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do what you're doing and farming and jarring and so
It
forth.
is, but it's
So
worth it.
why?
But it's
But
worth it because
why?
of how good you feel. All right. So number one, when I was a kid, we did have a garden. So I ate stuff out of the garden. My grandmother had a garden and that kind of stuff. My grandmother was into canning and like nobody else ever did it. I actually inherited all my grandma's like canning jars and shit when she died. So I ended up I ate really crappy. Like my first I lived with my first boyfriend out of high school and we just ate terrible. And I gained like 30, 40 pounds in college and it was horrible. I ate like crap. And I didn't honestly start really eating healthy until like I was pregnant with my second child. I still didn't eat the best. I ate better because I learned to cook for myself. But a lot of people ask me, how did you get into foraging? And I just I got to be honest. I'm like I'm poor because I was poor. I would
I have to
I
ask
lived in
about
a
that. So
really shitty apartment.
for
Yeah,
background, she had mentioned that foraging has what, 80% more nutrients than
80 to 90% more higher nutritional value in wild plants than even organic produce in the United States. So
okay, so first of all, like, what do you find foraging? Are you talking about like citrus trees? I mean, you said you're in Connecticut, so
yeah.
what are you
Um,
foraging? What kind of
well,
things?
right now there isn't any much of anything because it's January.
Uh
There's like
huh.
one little kind of mushroom you can get, but right now there's not a lot. Obviously, I forage from about March through November, depending on, what things I find. Um,
Okay.
in the springtime, which is when almost everybody's really interested in foraging in the springtime because they're like, I want to get outside, I want to learn this stuff. And that's when I do a lot of my foraging classes in springtime. Um, so I would say somewhere around mid to the end of March into early April is like primo. You've been sitting inside all winter long. Most of the winter, you've been
But what do
eating
you
soup
find?
and
What do you find?
well, I'm telling you that's why you feel like in the springtime when the sun comes up and the little spring greens are coming up, you want to detoxify your body from just being all stagnant all winter long. And that is one of the easiest things you could do is start running around your yard and finding dandelion greens. If you find stinging nettle, holy crap, stinging nettle is so good. Stinging nettle leaves, and they have this in Europe. It's all over Europe. Stinging nettle is probably, if it's not the most nutritious herb plant in the entire plant kingdom, it's one of the top couple of. It's defined as a nutritive herb, and it's just a wild weed. Most people hate because it's got pickers on it. If you brush your arm against it, it kind of stabs you. It's covered in little hairs that have formic acid, which is like the same stuff as ants have if they bite you. So it kind of hurts if you touch it the wrong way. But if you pick the tips, like I have a video on that, and I'll make another video come spring. Absolutely delicious, really good tea, really great pesto. Chickweed is another one that comes up all over the place in springtime. Chickweed makes
So
amazing pesto or
I
salad.
feel like what you're talking about is very what is it? Expert level.
Okay,
so
weeds,
so
weeds in your
let's
backyard.
I would say let's backtrack a bit because for me, right, like when you were saying I forage, I was just like, what, you finding tomatoes and like this is identifiable as food for me.
All right,
Um,
you know what dandelions look like?
yeah, but let's back up a little bit because someone like me, and I'm slowly going up the ladder of like understanding the value of food because I'm an engineer. I'm about efficiency, and for me, I'm just like, I just want to eat so I'm not hungry. I want to get eating out of the way so I can live my life. Like this
Okay,
whole Italian lifestyle of
yeah,
like conversations around food and so forth. Like, I don't know, even right now, right? Like I eat when I'm hungry. So,
yeah.
so that's like, okay, have you heard of a
Well,
CSA?
of course I have. I've run several of them. Community
Okay, so
supported
can you
agriculture. I,
explain?
I I sent you a video that
Say it
I
one
did
more
about
time.
that.
Community
Community
support.
supported agriculture. If you don't have anything to do with any farms ever, join a CSA from another farm, any farm.
Okay.
Community supported agriculture, how it runs is basically in the beginning of the season, like right about now, within the next month or two, farms are accepting applications for their CSA. Like you want to join somebody's CSA, and that means you give them a certain amount of money depending on how much they charge. Sometimes it's like 300-400 bucks, $500, and you give that to them as a lump sum at the beginning of the season so that they
Ooh,
have the
okay.
money, they have the capital to put into, I got to get my tractor fixed, I got to buy seeds, whatever, yada yada. They've got that money up front to
Okay.
put into the farm, and in exchange, usually around May or June, you start being allowed to go there once a week and pick up like a bag full of groceries, a box full of groceries. So you get the fresh farm produce that was just picked like within the last couple of days from that farm, and you get to take that home and make whatever it is you want with it. If you got a good farm that knows what they're doing, they're going to have somebody like me there to tell you, to answer all your questions and say, "Oh, you don't know what this is? Here, this is exactly what this is, and this is how you cook it." All right, and I love doing that to people to introduce them to new foods. A lot of people don't like, they know what kale is, but they haven't got a freaking clue how to eat it. Or they're like, I don't like this. It tastes gross. I'm like, if it tastes gross, you're eating it wrong. That's what I tell people. Almost every single vegetable. If it doesn't taste good, you are eating it wrong. Food should taste good.
Okay,
But
so
you,
you have your own. So is it like you have a CSA?
I
Like,
don't have a CSA. My farm is 1 acre. I have a teeny weeny itty bitty little farm. I have worked
okay.
on other farms and managed other farms that had a CSA. And I've been dealing with, I don't think I've actually in 9 years, I haven't had to get a subscription to a CSA because I always just worked at I worked at the farm. You can actually do that too if you're willing. If you've got a day or two during the week, volunteer at a farm or say, "Hey, can I come work for you in exchange for produce?" And you only, give them 4 or 5 hours out of your week, and they'll they'll pay you in food. And it's like, okay, this is totally, totally worth it. And I know in my original video I talked about how I did canning and prepping and all that stuff, but honestly, it is stupid easy to freeze your own vegetables. All you have to do is
I have a
blanch
question
stuff.
about that too.
Sure.
So somebody said something like people in the US like eat dead food. And I found that super interesting because I mean you give a look because
Yeah. They're
dead
probably
food I
overcooking
looked
it.
it
All
up
I
is
can say.
no, it's highly processed food. And so it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
have the live enzymes
Yeah, no
and
live
it's
active cultures or anything.
essentially
Yep.
now I thought that was super interesting. So I've got two questions. So one is if you're canning and you are freezing food, is that
Hmm.
considered dead or live food?
I don't know the actual answer to that. I would guess it's still live. It's still viable, nutritionally viable in my opinion, because what do you think is going to be more nutritionally um like a higher nutritional value? If you just think about it in your head, is it going to be the tomatoes that you grew in your little garden out back and then you brought them in your house and chopped them up and put them in the jars and canned them yourself? Or is it going to be the tomato paste that you bought from Walmart? Who knows where the hell those things grew and where they picked them or whatever? You know
So,
what I
but I'm
mean?
not comparing the tomato paste. I'm comparing,
Tomato.
so is it basically like a sliding scale where when you think of a live food, because what is interesting, right? Like if I have a tomato on my counter, and I've actually had a tomato on my counter for 3 weeks, and I bit into it, and all of the seeds had started sprouting.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Yep. That happens. That's funny.
So
There's a name for that, but yeah.
So before, like, only recently did it occur to me that the tomato itself, even though it's picked, is actually still alive, right?
I don't
And
know if it's still alive necessarily. It's got I think the way you're describing it to me sounds like fresh food, especially vegetables and things like that, if they're grown organically or they're grown without pesticides, have um, like natural bacteria and natural cultures that live on the skin and live in that thing. Okay, and that's what I would qualify as a live food because it's full of prebiotic fiber that is going to be able to easily feed the probiotics that are naturally occurring in your gut. So like even if you don't take probiotics, your gut bacteria is what actually eats your food. It's not you. The bacteria living in your gut is what's eating your food. So if the food that you're looking at um, is full of prebiotics or prebiotic fiber, the good kind of stuff that your bacteria in your gut want to eat, I would consider that being alive. Okay, and there
okay,
are a lot
so
of
hold on.
yeah.
You just said prebiotic. So there's a prebiotic and there's a probiotic.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's a lot you don't know. All right. I'm sorry. I don't know where you're at. All right. Probiotics. A lot of people know probiotics because it's like, okay, yogurt has probiotics in it, or you can get capsules
Okay.
that have probiotics in it. There's a probiotic that I take every day. I keep recommending it to everybody because it cured me from SIBO and helped my rosacea and all that kind of stuff. Being on a probiotic is helpful because if you don't have the existing gut bacteria already in your gut, taking that probiotic
Okay.
every day is going to help you build it up. But prebiotics are what your probiotics eat. So the probiotic capsule that you're taking, or the yogurt that you're eating so that you get probiotics, or the kefir or kombucha or whatever it is, that is full of probiotics. That's the little active bacteria and cultures that go and live in your stomach and make a happy place there. But
Okay.
you need to eat foods that are feeding those bacteria, otherwise they die. And you want those healthy bacteria in your gut. You
Okay.
want them
So the
happy.
prebiotics are the food that the probiotics eat.
Yes, which is mostly fiber and vegetables and fruit, things like that. which is why one of the biggest reasons why I tell everybody, please just eat more fiber. Eat vegetables. If
I thought fiber
vegetables
just pushed everything out.
no,
I
no,
thought
no,
that
no.
was the brush
All right.
that just went through the intestines.
I mean, it's helpful. No, fiber, all right, there's a video that I saw. Let me just tell you that this video that I saw, I think on TikTok actually, like, I don't know, last year or something. It was a really good demonstration. The guy talked about sugar versus fiber. Think about an apple, all right? An apple has a lot of sugar in it. An apple has a lot of sugar in it. So if you squeeze that apple and get all the juice out, that is a concentrated juice, concentrated sugar. You have just gotten rid of all that pulp and all that fiber around that's surrounding the sugar naturally. And you just got rid of that and you're drinking just straight sugar. Whereas the apple itself, like the way the apple was developed, the apple is meant to be eaten as a whole form. So the sugar is meant to be consumed with the surrounding fiber, so that the fiber, when you eat the fiber and the sugar at the same time, it's digestible. When you're just drinking the sugar, basically, it's shooting right through your system really fast. It's the same concept with bread. If you're eating white bread that all the fiber has been taken off of it, it goes right through your system really fast. Your body just makes it into fat right away, and it doesn't have a hard time digesting it. But if you eat bread with lots of grains or ancient grains, sprouted grain, any of that kind of stuff, it's harder to digest, but it works. But you get the fiber pushing all that through your body and getting it out and feeding your actual system rather than just putting a bunch
That's
of fat on your
interesting.
body.
Because I did hear about that. And then I also heard that, so it's better to eat, so it's like whole grain where you eat the husk and
Yeah,
you eat the inside. Okay. So
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
balances things out. Now, I heard that in the US, so in general, you do want to eat whole grains. But I heard that in the US, because they're spraying the fields with pesticides, it's actually less healthy to eat whole grain because this
It,
has the majority of the pesticides.
it's still going to be healthier to eat the whole grain, but what you want to look for in the US, if for some wild reason you refuse to give up bread, I would highly recommend looking for something made with like sprouted. They call it sprouted wheat. And what that does, sprouting, that means they sprout the grains. They put the grains in water for a couple of days and they sprout little tails on them, and then they make it into flour and cook it. What that does is it starts the digestive process of the seed, and it starts digesting the carbohydrates and the sugars in it. All right, so it's basically pre-digesting all the crap that was on it, and it helps it get through your body better. I honestly tell people either eat organic or just don't eat flour at all. You can get einkorn wheat, which is it's a different variety of wheat. Einkorn wheat, I think they have this in Europe too. There's a very small company in the United States that produces einkorn wheat. Jovial Foods, I think, is what it is. And I only eat a little bit. Like if I'm going to bake with wheat, I'm buying that one because the einkorn wheat is the same variety of wheat that humans started farming over 10,000 years ago. It has not changed. They haven't genetically modified it. They haven't messed with the grain to make it produce more or anything like that. So it takes a lot longer to produce. It's definitely an organic grain, but it's because it hasn't been modified or messed around with it. You like most people that can't normally eat bread or gluten or anything like that, as long as they don't have celiac, because celiac is a little different. If you normally are bothered by gluten or wheat, you can eat einkorn wheat. You can still probably eat einkorn wheat, especially if you make sourdough with it or something. It's awesome.
So we have a question here.
Sure.
What about spelt flour?
Spelt is good. Yeah. I mean, any kind of flour, if you can get organic, preferably get organic, because even though some pesticides are used in organic farming, they're tested. They're tested so that they're not. It's not going to be like an endocrine disruptor, anything that's going to really, really super harm you. I personally have had to use some certain pesticides even in organic farming because sometimes the bugs just get so bad. And if you want a crop, you got to spray them with a little bit of something. You're spraying the leaves, not the fruit or the vegetables. You're just usually spraying the leaves. And it doesn't. I don't do it very often, but sometimes it happens, and there's just an imbalance in your fields when you're growing a lot of one kind of thing. Like if I grew too much squash or squash bugs or something like that, Bean. Oh, are you talking about neem oil? Somebody asked me a question. Neem oil, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a crapshoot. In my experience, neem oil doesn't work that well, quite frankly.
Is neem oil a pesticide?
It can be used as a pesticide. Yeah, it comes from there's a plant. I think it's like an Australian plant that creates it, the neem plant, and you get oil from it, and you can use it as a pesticide. But in my experience, like working with it, it doesn't work that great. At least not anymore. I think it's been overused in this country, like because everybody knows about that one, and the ones that actually do work a little better are stuff like spinosad or pyganic or diatomaceous earth does work, but the problem with diatomaceous earth is when it's like a powder and you throw that on your plants, and as soon as it rains or as soon as you turn the sprinkler on, you're screwed. You have to put it on again because it just melts away in the water. So there are some natural things you can do. The best thing that the reason I said in that original video to support somebody that is practicing regenerative agriculture, uh, they're paying attention to what they put into their soil and the natural habitat. So people that practice regenerative agriculture on their farm are they're thinking about the insects in like, all right, you know what, I've got this bug problem, I've got this aphid problem eating my beans. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to go online and buy myself a package of ladybugs and put it in the garden, and the ladybugs just decimate all the aphids, or I want to attract praying mantises to come into my garden and eat all these stupid beetles that are destroying my potatoes. You know what I mean? They're trying to think of that way. Plus, they're inputting a lot. Yes, a healthy ecological system. Absolutely. Somebody just said that on my comments. You're creating a healthy ecological system and healthy soils. You're building the soils up rather than taking letting just growing vegetables over and over again and having them take all the nutrients out of the soil. That's another big deal in the United States. Almost everybody here, like almost everybody, I can't speak for you because you've been eating in Italy for so long, but almost everybody here is magnesium deficient. And the reason we're all
Where do you
magnesium.
find magnesium? What fruits and vegetables have naturally occurring magnesium, and how do you know if you have a magnesium deficiency?
Well, so the ones off the top of my head, I think bananas, almonds. I think kale actually is high in magnesium. Stinging nettle again, a wild thing. There are some, like I would just Google what veggies are high in magnesium, but you're never going to get enough. You're never going to get enough, and the reason why that's part of this. Um, I actually supplement. I supplement with magnesium capsules because I can't get enough from the ground yet, and I've been growing for years organically.
How do you know you
Um,
have a deficiency?
have you ever heard of restless leg syndrome? Restless, yeah.
Yes.
If you've got restless leg syndrome, you've got a magnesium deficiency. There are a million other symptoms that you can. Um, Magnesium affects so many of your body's systems. Like I don't even. There's no way I've got time to go into all of them. I would even have to sit and remember, like make a list of all of them. But as an herbalist, one of the things that I've learned recently, you can fix so many people's problems just by putting them on a magnesium supplement. It's ridiculous. Because what happens is in the American food system, especially, I'm sorry, you trying to ask me something? I
Oh
thought you
no,
said,
someone said hello, so I was just
oh,
doing the
okay.
wave without interrupting you. But apparently,
Yes,
waving interrupted you, so never mind.
magnesium glycinate. Magnesium glycinate is the one that I take personally. But what happens is
Uh-huh.
in farming in the United States, especially, if you're not putting enough nutrients back into the soil, like at the end of the season, you pick all your plants, they're done for the year. If you don't put enough stuff back into your soil, what happens is year after year, the vegetables keep growing and they get smaller and smaller, and they're sucking more and more of those minerals out of the soil to the point where your soil is deficient in minerals. The soil itself doesn't have the minerals to give to that plant. So even if that plant is supposed to have like so much magnesium in it, it's not going to have hardly anything at all because that magnesium isn't in the soil.
So I was talking to my friend, and I'm trying to remember what country I was in. It could have been Israel, where like you legally, after you use a field for so many years, you have to let it rest. And there's like at least a year or something that you're not
Yeah.
supposed to plant like anything on it, and you let the soil naturally regenerate itself. And then wasn't it like the Indians that would actually rotate their crops so they
Um,
wouldn't plant the same thing in the crop in
yeah,
the same
well,
soil year after year?
crop, yes, the Native Americans have fish emulsion. I got silver. Hey, Mark, how's it going? And yes, Old Man Moonshine, you need to take magnesium. Seriously. Sorry, I got people in here asking me stuff.
Oh yeah.
Fish emulsion is awesome. I use fish emulsion, but fish emulsion, unfortunately, is only like 1% nitrogen, phosphate, and I think calcium or whatever, calcium chloride. Fish emulsion actually doesn't have as much as you would think. I do use fish emulsion, but honestly, good old fashioned shit. You go get goat poop, alpaca poop, cow poop, any of that. Put that in your garden. Chicken poop, any of that. Put that in your garden. Obviously, it has to be composted first. You can't put it right on the
And
plants or
just for
anything.
curious, so I've been hearing a lot of that TikTok drama where the farmers haven't been getting eggs. And then they replace the food
Oh dear, I knew you would ask me. All right.
and suddenly they're all getting eggs. And it does what? Take calcium and I'm sure different minerals that the chicken must have in order to get the eggs. So it's either my feeling, even though would either be that the food that they're giving them doesn't have the nutrients in order for the
That's a big
eggs
part.
to be able to be produced in the
But
chicken. So that would either be they're feeding them, they didn't change the feed, but the feed got lowered in quality because maybe they were planting year after year?
let me explain
Or do you
something.
think there's more to it?
There are two. All right. So number one, if you want me to, I can explain exactly why there's an egg shortage in the United States right now, because there really isn't. If you wanted me to get into that, but if you're talking about just the chicken food drama, all right. I've raised poultry myself for 6 years, and I've always fed organic soy-free feed. It is very expensive to feed your birds soy-free because soy is a very cheap source of protein, and that's why almost all poultry feed has soy in it. Okay, even if it's organic, it's still soy. The problem is when chickens or ducks or whatever, that's why I say poultry, whatever your birds are, when they eat things with soy, the soy in the feed prevents their body from absorbing the other nutrients and minerals that's in the other grains in the feed. So when most of their feed is made from soy, it screws up their digestion and they can't actually get the nutrition they need from their food.
But
So
why
as
wouldn't
much as
this
it
been the
sucks,
first year that this happens?
well, all chickens stop laying for a while in the wintertime. They need a break. Their body needs a break. I will. Okay, somebody wants me to explain the egg shortage. Give me just a second. Let me just finish talking about the feed first, because if there is, God forbid, anybody that's a farmer here or wants to have chickens or something, soy free is an expensive way to feed your birds. Trust me, it was like $42 for a 50-pound bag of feed for me. You can't really make your money back, but the quality of the eggs you're getting out of your birds, especially if you're also letting them scratch around on the ground and go in the yard and whatnot, is so insanely superior to anything you're ever going to get at the grocery store. It's totally worth it, especially if you're just going to have like 4 or 5 birds or something at home for yourself. Um, at any rate, what was you asked me something specific. I'm sorry about the soy, right? The feed. You just said something and I forgot what the hell it was you said.
I, like it just sounds like it's not that I'm a farmer. I just see the TikTok drama, but it seems like this year was a especially big year for
I don't think
no
it's not an
eggs.
especially
Or do
big
you?
year. What it is more people are chicken farming. More people are chicken farming and more people have TikTok. That's all it is. Um, more people are able to get on TikTok and bitch about it
So they were just able to like troubleshoot, and you think those are more new? I don't know if they were experienced farmers or this is the first
I
time that they're actually with their chickens or
I have
something.
a feeling that they're mostly first and second year chicken owners. That would be my guess. Because and there's a lot of people that own poultry that have absolutely no idea about what I just said, the fact that soy prevents them from absorbing the nutrients in the rest of their food. Bat guano in the garden? Shit, yeah. If you can get bat guano, holy crap, that stuff's amazing. I can't get bat guano.
So why do you
The
say there's no
avian
egg
flu. Oh
shortage?
my god, somebody's telling me something. Avian flu. No, it's a lie. That's a lie, vegan Vic. Sorry. I have to explain the egg shortage because I got my people here are asking. And
Okay.
forgive me because I'm going to sound like I'm a ranting, raving lunatic because I've done this a couple of times. All right, so there is no egg shortage in the United States. There is no egg shortage anywhere. Chickens and birds, they're all still laying. What's going on? In 2020, we had a drought in this country, a really, really bad drought. I mean, my well went dry twice. It was freaking horrible. So everybody across the country had a really, really bad drought in 2020. And because of the drought, everybody's the big grain farms, they didn't produce nearly as much. Their production was like a third of what it normally is. And at the end of that year, every single grain farmer was saying, this is going to affect us years in advance. You watch out, 2-3 years from now, people are going to be losing their minds because grain prices are going to shoot up because there's not enough. And there's just, anyway,
Wasn't
grain
that also
prices
a
did
thing with
shoot up.
Russia? Because we get a lot of our wheat and something from Russia, and with the war, I remember that
I
the
don't know about
Ukrainians
that.
couldn't plant their fields. And so I remember something like that was going to have big ripple effects because the Ukrainians couldn't plant because of the
Um,
war.
I don't think that's
We don't have to
affecting the
get into
United
that,
States.
but I remember
Yeah,
that being a big thing too.
yeah, I didn't see that, so I don't know if that's affecting the United States. I know that so the drought affected the grain in 2020. Now that we're catching up to that, grain prices have risen. Farmers, especially egg farmers, have to pay a higher price for the grain that they're feeding their birds, okay? And because they're paying a higher price, they asked the people that they're providing eggs to, the companies that are buying their eggs, they requested to raise the price. It's like, 3, 5 cents a dozen, something like that, some small amount. Look, I need to pass this on to the customer because I'm paying more for grain. Makes sense. That's economics, that's business. What's happening is the bigger corporations, the large companies are greedy as hell, and they refuse to pay the additional price that the farmers are asking. Therefore, you're going to notice, you go around to a couple of different stores, you go into one store and egg prices, eggs are either gone or they're $8, $9 a dozen. That's how you know that store is run by, quite frankly, a-holes, because they're refusing to pay the farmers for the increased price of their production. There are a lot of stores where you go in and it's like $3, $4 for a dozen eggs, and that's the going price right now. And it's like, okay,
Yeah, but
this
I don't
store
understand
pays their farmers.
why if the store is refusing to pay the higher prices, then why are there like $18 eggs? Like if they're not buying it, then they're not
Because
buying it, so there wouldn't be eggs, right?
they're buying some, or they've got some in reserve, whatever it is. They got some small farmers that just caved and said, look, I need the business more than I need to raise my prices. And basically they're screwing the egg farmers. If you're support, you either support the egg farmers or you support the store. It's one or the other at this point. The easiest thing to do is just go around and buy local eggs from somebody down the road, because you probably have somebody down the road that has eggs. But yeah,
But for the amount of difference, I'm not really following because everything has seen inflation. So increasing the price and then paying more and passing the cost on to the consumers, I feel like the consumers are used to it by now.
well, you would think, but a lot of people a lot of people complain about that. That everybody, all I've been hearing in the United States is people complaining nonstop about how expensive food is, and they're right. I mean, even the meat is very expensive right now. But if you buy your meat from a local farm, they probably raised their price by maybe not even $1 a pound. And some of these
So,
stores have raised their prices by like $5, $6 a pound, if not more.
and
So
I'll
that's
add
why I'm
something
saying,
to for my audience. I've heard people do this. There's something called like World Packers. So it's like a website where you can actually go somewhere and work and they'll pay for your housing and then maybe even some food. So you can go essentially maybe even work on a farm and travel the world and then get
oh, are you talking
fed.
about wolfing? WOOF? Those are woofers.
So the thing is World Packers is a website and it has a whole bunch of different jobs that you can do. And it's basically for room and board or a small stipend or something like that. It's basically bartering. And so it's a
Yeah.
way that someone can go to another country, experience that country. For instance, I
Wow.
met some Brazilians who live in Israel and they
Hmm.
were at a dive shop that I went to. And
Yeah.
so so it was like a dive shop and a hostel. And they basically helped run the reception and then
Yep.
they got free room and
Yep.
board
That's
and
woofers.
food.
It's
And so,
WWOOF. Yeah.
okay.
We
And
call
so
them
is,
woofers. You basically get free labor for your farm for a while.
okay, so you also provide housing then?
If you're a big farm, not me personally, my farm's too damn small for that. I run everything
Yeah.
myself on my farm, but I've worked
Uh-huh.
for other farms that have had woofers there, and it's basically you sign up to go. It's an experience, and it can be a learning experience. It's from the farmer's perspective, it's kind of a crapshoot hiring them because is this person actually going to have any skill
Reliable
and
or
be worth
not?
my time?
Yeah.
Or are they, because some people, no offense, but some people are just not cut out for farming for, worth a damn. Like if it takes you 10 hours to weed a 20-foot row of carrots, you are useless to me. So, um, it depends on what you can get out of them, but you have to give them housing and board and let them have some food and that kind of thing. But it is a way to get cheaper free labor. Yeah, one of these guys said wheat was $5 in 2020. Yeah, no, I hear you, wheat flax. Everything's going up.
I'll probably do a TikTok about this, but you mentioned carrots. I found out the other day that the city that I'm in,
Yeah,
Polignano, has its own carrots called Polignano carrots.
cool,
So check this
cool.
out. They're like very colorful
Oh
carrots and they're
yeah,
grown by the sea.
yeah. I've grown those before. Those are great. Did you know that carrots naturally were never orange? They were white. Nat, the
Really?
original carrot, yeah, the original carrot was white, and they started selectively breeding them until they got to be yellow and then orange. And people liked the orange ones so much that's why most people have orange carrots. But I've grown all of those. Every one of those. Yeah, the ones that are those are dragon carrots. The ones that are red on the outside and orange in the middle. Those are great. I like.
That's so
There's one.
cool. Are these different seeds or are they all the same?
No,
And they
they're
just
different
happen to
seed
be different
varieties.
colors.
They're definitely different seeds. Yeah, every one of those is different seed, but you
Okay.
can buy seed packets that are full of like a mix of them, and that's fun.
Uh-huh.
My favorite ones are the black carrots. I like to grow black vegetables, so I grow they're black nebulas, and they are almost total. They're almost black. They're so purple. If you put them in water, like to boil them, the water turns like black. It's so freaking cool. I love those carrots. Yeah, those are delicious.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but someone was telling me that you can look up Polignano carote and then you come up with
Cool.
these. So I
That's
thought that was
neat.
super interesting.
One of my followers, yeah, yeah, wheat flax. I hear you. The carrot weeding brings back bad thoughts. You have no idea how many hours I have spent weeding carrots, wheat flax. Seriously. And people, oh my gosh, I have a fun farm story. If you want to not be that person. Um, my first year farming, I was picking vegetable. I don't know if you've ever grown green beans in your life. Anybody that's ever grown green beans, if you've ever seen how green beans grow, bush beans, they grow a little like 2 foot tall plant, and they're covered in beans. And the only way to pick them, you got to get down on your knees or sitting down and just work your way up the row and pick a whole shitload of beans. And it takes hours. It takes hours and hours and hours to pick beans. Okay. I remember one time I had a farmer's market. I had to be there at like 10 a.m. So I'm up at 7 a.m. I'm packing the truck. I'm getting everything ready and whatnot. I get there. I get everything set up, ready for 10 o'clock in the morning. Some lady comes by my booth at like 10:30 and looks at my green beans, which we picked like a day or two before, right? And she says, "Oh, are these fresh? How are these?" I said, "Oh, they're great. They just got picked like Friday or whatever the hell it was." And she goes, "You're supposed to tell me that they got picked this morning." And I said, "Well, if you want to get up at 2 a.m. and pick green beans, you're welcome to it, but I need sleep." Because I mean, people just don't understand. Like this stuff doesn't just grow and magically get in the bucket and get in the basket to your farmer's market.
All she
It
said
takes
is
work.
lie to her. You didn't have to
Yeah,
do it. It's America. It's about marketing.
I
She
I just
basically
got I
said,
was
lie to me,
tired. I'm
baby.
like, I've been working for 60 hours on a farm, and I'm like, no, I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning so I can pick green beans just in case you come by my booth. So yeah, shelling peas. Yeah, shelling peas is another story. That's why nobody grows shelling peas anymore. Those carrots are great. You
One
should
of
bite
my
into that.
followers, I think I want to wash it first.
Don't be a what? Come on, eat a little dirt.
Really?
Dirt is good for you. Dirt is good. Do you have any idea how much dirt I eat on a regular basis?
The
I
funny
eat
thing is
so
that
much dirt.
I bought potatoes from the same woman, and like I've never gotten potatoes with so much dirt on them.
You can rinse, yeah, rinse it off. But no, if I'm out in the field and I pick a carrot, if I'm out in the field, I pick a carrot, I dig up a carrot, I wipe it off on my pants and I eat it. Same thing with a radish. It's still got a shitload of dirt on it. I don't care. You know how many really good microbes are in that dirt? It's really good for you. Eat a little dirt once
You
in a
know,
while.
I usually peel the carrot, so even just
Oh,
going
do
and
that! No, no,
only
no, no, no! Don't
washing
peel your
it.
carrot. Oh, don't peel it.
What?
The skin is where all the vitamins are. All of your
Seriously?
vegetables. Don't
Everyone
peel.
peels
Yes.
their carrots.
Nobody peels their carrot. No, 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 no. Don't peel your carrots. Unless they're like conventionally grown and you think they're probably full of pesticides. Yeah, it's yellow inside. Those are good.
That's interesting. Yeah,
They're
so it's
good.
not. It is
You're right,
good.
Winquest.
It has
One of
like
my guys, he said cleaning potatoes causes rot quicker if storing. You have to keep them with the dirt on them, and that's how they last longer. You're right. Yeah, so it makes them last longer to still have dirt on them. Any of them. Those are great. Yeah, those are dragon carrots. I've grown those. I grew some of those last year.
this is a
The big,
dragon carrot.
yeah, yeah. They're neat. They're fun, but they're delicious.
It is
I
good.
mean, if you buy organic produce, you can wash it, but don't peel. Don't peel your stuff. All the vitamins are in the skin. All the vitamins in all your
Okay, there
food.
was another question. So the question is organic actually healthier than non-organic? Someone was saying if it's not organic, you have to spray it with more pesticide. Or if it is organic pesticide, then sometimes you have to spray it with a lot more pesticides than non-organic, and therefore sometimes organic vegetables are less healthy. True or false?
False. I've never heard of that. The only thing I would suggest, if you are on a budget, if you have a budget, like you're on a tight budget and you can't afford or you don't think you can afford organic vegetables, there's a list out there that you can Google. It's like the Dirty Dozen or something like that. There are certain
Yes.
vegetables and fruits you definitely want to be buying organic as opposed to others. Like, but for me, I don't give a shit if my bananas are organic or not because I'm not eating them peeled. Same with avocados. I'm not eating those avocado peels, so I don't really care if it's organic or not. I will buy organic if I've got the money. If not, whatever. Um, but some things like apples, strawberries, cucumbers, and peppers, holy shit, buy those organic. Please only buy those organic because the conventional way to produce them, so much pesticides. Like I won't even eat strawberries from a grocery store anymore. I refuse to eat strawberries from the grocery store. I'll only eat them like organically or grown myself because they're just terrible. So high in pesticides. I don't think you can even wash it all off.
So I did look up the Dirty Dozen. It was funny because I asked Chat GPT.
Mhm.
I asked for what are the 15 most important things to buy organically,
Yep.
fruits and vegetables, but I asked for 15. And then it's
Mhm.
funny because they said these foods are often referred as the Dirty Dozen,
Yeah.
even though I asked for 15. So they give me number one, apples, two,
Yep.
strawberries,
Yep.
three, grapes, four,
Neat.
celery, five, peaches, six, spinach, seven, green sweet bell peppers, eight, nectarines, nine, cucumbers, 10, cherry tomatoes, 11, snap peas, 12, potatoes, and then 13 was hot peppers, 14, blueberries, and 15, lettuce. Does that sound about right to you?
Um, Probably, sort of. Honestly, anything that If you can touch that part of the vegetable in the store, it should be organic. Like if you're looking in the grocery store and they've got heads of lettuce, you can touch the lettuce and put that part in your mouth and you're definitely going to eat that part. Buy it organic. If it's something that you have to peel or you're only going to eat the inside part, like maybe a papaya, you're not going to eat the peel. A mango, you're not going to eat the peel. Banana, you're probably not going to eat the peel.
Okay.
It's less it's less important to be worrying about
So
that so much.
basically, the higher the surface area, like the smaller it is, the higher the surface area, and the thinner the skin.
Yeah, basically. That's how I roll. I mean, most of the time, berries are sprayed with
Because
a
I
lot of
am
pesticides
noticing
and stuff.
that pattern, except for the apples.
Well, apples are sprayed with a lot of pesticides frequently. That's a big. They're sprayed with pesticides, and then on top of that, they're waxed a lot of times. So the wax is sitting in there, thin coat of wax on top of that, so holding in the pesticides, which is another. Like I'll only buy organic apples for sure. Yeah, I know somebody said organic allows for certain pesticides and herbicides. I'm well aware, dude. I've had to work with USDA organic pesticides before. Some
I
things are.
also heard that apples in the US are actually banned from import to some other countries because I guess what, pesticides or something?
I've
That's
never
actually
heard
on the
that.
ban list.
I didn't. Huh.
Let me see
I
if
have
I
not
can
heard
look it
that.
up.
Yeah, I'd have to Google that. I don't know. That's awesome,
Yeah, I
old
was
man
doing a bunch
moonshine.
of
And
research.
wheat flax, I don't know the ALAR scare. I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about. He said, remember the ALAR scare. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've got like 9 or 10 people watching right now. It's not a lot, but it's okay.
It says European
Apple.
food safety regulators banned the pesticide coated staple last month because of diphenylamine,
Okay.
DPA, a potentially carcinogen,
Carcinogenic. Yeah. Carcinogen.
carcinogenic compound used to keep the fruit from turning brown. Whereas the EU
Oh,
has limited
yeah.
the use of DPA to zero point 0.1 parts per million.
Yeah.
The EPA currently allows 100 times that amount on its apples.
I believe it. They, I am not, I am not in support of any produce or anything that you spray on your vegetables or fruits to make it look like they're riper longer or they're better longer. So that is just bad news.
So, is
I
there a
don't.
way to protect against that? Like, is there any sort of certification people could be looking for, or a website that lists the different suppliers where you can get like cleaner food that doesn't have as much of these bad pesticides on it?
Well, again, the closest you're going to get to something nationally that's nationally available is USDA organic. I'm not the biggest fan of the USDA because they actually do allow a lot of shit that I wouldn't ever put on my vegetables or fruits. So they're kind of squeezed. They're not terrible, but there's a lot of pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and things like that that the USDA does allow for the purpose of commercial production, producing a lot of something at one time. That's one of the biggest reasons why I say I don't care where you live in the United States. What I suggest you do is Google farms and your zip code, or you go like I'm in Connecticut, so if I type in Connecticut grown, CT grown, a website comes up with a huge list of all the local farms, and you can find organic farms or certified naturally grown farms, any of that stuff. Any one of your states is going to have a website or some kind of system that helps support local farmers. And if you just find the closest farm to you, you can call them and ask, say, hey, do you guys do organic practices? Do you grow anything? Do you do with pesticides? Whatever you got to, however you want to ask them. A lot of places have a website. If they have a website, they're going to tell you. If they use organic practices, for the most part, they will tell you on their website because they know that's like a buzzword.
Okay,
I,
so a big thing that you have is basically like if you were to give advice, it would be number one, make friends with your local farmer.
yes, number one, make friends with your local farmer. You don't have to get a CSA share, but it is a really good idea if you can. Find your local farmers market and go and talk to people and say, hey, I'm interested in saving some food this year. Like if you like kale, I love kale. So because I worked on a farm, I could just go in the field and grab a giant bunch of kale and bring it home. But what I do is I save all my bacon fat when I cook bacon. So I just put a little bacon fat in a pan, slice up my kale, throw that in the pan, cook it for like maybe 3-4 minutes, just so that it's just a little tiny bit cooked and starting to wilt. And then I throw that in a Ziploc baggie, put the date on it, and throw it in the freezer. And then you do that enough times over the summer that you're hitting January and you've still got kale in your freezer that you can go back and cook. So stuff like that.
Okay, so number two would be if you can grow your own food. Number three, I've seen it even in my neighborhood in California. The community actually has like a plot of land that you can
Oh
get a
yeah,
plot of
community garden.
land in the community
Yep.
garden. That's a
Absolutely.
really
There's
cute
community
idea.
gardens all over the place. Yeah, you can rent a plot in a community garden. So even if you don't have a spot, like if you're in an apartment or something, you can rent a plot at a community garden and grow a little bit of stuff there. You can grow things in pots. I mean, almost everybody has grown a tomato in a pot. If you can't grow a freaking tomato, I'm just like looking at you like you got six heads because an idiot can grow a tomato. I'm serious.
You know,
All you got to do,
speaking of that, when I first
all
started, I
you
was
got to
really
do
good
is
at growing
tomato
tomato
plant,
plants.
tomato plant.
Sometimes you're good at growing tomato plants and not tomatoes. I've been guilty of that
That's
before.
true. That's true. But if you could, I meant the plants grow stupid easy. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah, but you're not
stick them
going
in
to
the.
eat the plant.
Well, that's
I
true. That is
realize that
true.
growing tomato plants are different than growing tomatoes.
Yeah, but the thing is, especially like if you want to grow your own, like I know on your Dirty Dozen list was cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes are so ridiculously easy to grow yourself. Like, why wouldn't you? You put it in a pot, and
Yeah.
even if all you've got is a porch or like steps down to the outside of your house or whatever, stick a pot of cherry tomatoes right there and grow some cherry tomatoes. Give it something, some
Yeah.
kind of support, and they are so insanely prolific. Like last year, we had so many cherry tomatoes, we were throwing them out left and right on the farm. They were
So,
everywhere.
something that I had discovered that made it easier is I installed an automatic irrigation, which was super easy because I think it cost like maybe $35 off of Amazon. And I hooked it up to the hose. I put like 4 batteries in there, and then it has an automatic
Set a
timer,
timer.
which
Yeah.
which basically drip feeds, and then you set it up, and then it just
Yeah.
automatically waters your plants.
Yeah,
So,
you can do
because
that
I'm
with
a
the dripper.
person who's
Go
not
ahead.
so timely with feeding anyone else. I'm not even timely with feeding myself. So to remember to water a garden, that's a thing. So we only have like 5 minutes left. If anyone has any questions or anything that they want to add, one of my followers says, or eat what's season in, or what's
Yes,
healthy
in
in
season,
season.
seasonal eating. Excellent. But that's another reason why I suggest learn how to, you don't have to do canning if canning scares you or whatever, but freezing your own vegetables 99% of the time, you get a bunch of squash for super cheap at the farmer's market because it's like a two for $1 or whatever. You go home, you shred it, stick it in a freezer and you freezer bag and throw it in your freezer. You for carrots or potatoes or just there's all kinds of vegetables. You blanch it, which just means you chop it up, you throw it in boiling water for 2 minutes, then you stick it in a bowl that's got some ice water for a second so it stops the cooking, and then you throw that in a baggie with a date, put the date on it, and throw it in your freezer. It is stupid easy to freeze your vegetables. And then you've got your own vegetables that you either grew yourself or you got from an organic farm or whatever. When even the organic farms, even though they're more expensive, like in most of the time, when they have a glut of some kind of vegetable or fruit, they're going to sell it to you for wicked cheap. You just got to go there at the right time of year. If you're like, I know tomatoes are coming soon. I'm going to go to the farm, and they're going to be begging you to buy to take more tomatoes because they're just throwing them in the compost. They got so many of them. Here, buy a bushel of tomatoes, go home and freeze them or can them, whatever you got to do. Why blanch? You have to blanch them before you freeze them. That's almost every vegetable. You don't have to blanch peppers. You don't have to blanch celery, but just about everything else. And like a way I like to save herbs, if you got a lot of parsley or basil or something like that, take it home, chop it up really small, shove it in an ice cube tray, and then pour some olive oil into each thing of the ice cube tray. You stick it in the freezer, and you just froze fresh, super fresh herbs, any kind of herb you can do that with, and you pull it out as soon as it's frozen. You pull them out of the ice cube tray, and you've got like a little baggie full of fresh herb ice cubes that you just stick in soup or stick it in your pan, whatever you got to do. It's really, really easy. I like making squash and tomato stew. Oh, cool. I've never had that. That's an interesting recipe. You'll have to give me the recipe, old man Moonshine. But yeah, you want to blanch your vegetables before you freeze them for the most part. You can Google a list of this stuff too. Like what vegetables do I have to blanch or, what don't I have to freeze? I have a shitload of cherry tomatoes in my freezer right now. I'm sorry, I'm swearing. In my freezer right now that I just picked them off the vine, threw them in a baggie, stuck them in the freezer. That's it. That's it. When you can get access to this stuff, there are more farms in the United States than you think, and actually most of them are owned by women, believe it or not.
Oh,
So
really? That's pretty awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
and I'm sure that there are lots of farms. The question is like how to make sure that the food is actually higher quality and you're not getting a bunch of pesticides. Uh,
Well,
and because the
I
other
mean, I
thing
guess
is there's also the difference. How do you, and like wheat, there's a question that I'm interested in. Because how do you get wheat that hasn't been affected by these pesticides?
that's why I said the einkorn wheat. You get organic einkorn wheat.
Einkorn.
Yeah,
Okay.
Einkorn. Einkorn wheat is a good one. Or you can use organic spelt or organic buckwheat or things like that. You basically have to learn to cook with a different kind of wheat. I used to buy wheat from a baker that a couple towns over. She bought her wheat from Europe and had it imported to the United States, and her wheat wouldn't make anybody sick. So something about the way that I think it's white wheat instead of hard red winter wheat, which is mostly what we grow in the United States here. It's
Somebody
a huge,
said crop hop connects us to our farmers. Have you heard of crop hop before?
no, well, actually, I might have heard of it. There's a lot of those websites that connect you to your farmers. That's why I say the simplest thing to do if you can't remember anything else is Google the word farm and put your zip code in and just see what comes up.
Okay.
That's the first.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to do it. Because if they exist as a farm, hopefully they've got a website by now. It's 2023, and there's a lot of places. Oh yeah, glyphosate was the main issue. Wheat flax. Go back and look at I have a post about. I'll tag you in it about why wheat makes you sick. I made a whole video about that. Sorry, somebody was asking me about glyphosate. Yeah, no, I know what glyphosate is, dude. Trust me. Does anybody else have any questions? It's like 2 o'clock. I just want to make sure we're hitting everybody. I know it wasn't like the biggest audience, but at least I got to rant for an hour.
Yeah, and a woman named Amanda Flowers says that Crop Hop they're developing an app and they're a nonprofit. The money goes back to us, the year, and our farmers. So very nice. It's nice to
Oh,
have,
cool.
as you said, more female-owned, small. Because that's the other thing is the way the U.S. is structured.
Oh
You end
yeah,
up being the wealth inequality
I
is a
know.
big thing, and the more you just support the big guys, that means you're supporting that system. So the shopping small and putting
Yep.
money into our
If,
community keeps
yeah.
keeps the checks and the balances, right? And that's a big thing about Italy. It's the relationship between people. It's like people actually care. And the higher the structure is, they get so far from everybody else that they don't care and all they see is the money. Whereas if
Yeah.
you're like local farmer, chances are that local farmer isn't going to want to poison you, is my guess.
Oh, exactly, exactly. And you go up, when you buy $30, $40 worth of vegetables from your local farm, that 30 or $40 goes back into their pocket and buys them groceries that they don't have from somewhere else, or it goes and pays their rent on something. It fixes their tractor that broke. When you buy $30, $40 worth of vegetables from the grocery store, where the hell does that go? Most of it's probably going into somebody's pocket that doesn't give a shit about you.
Exactly. And they're paying
So,
the lowest wages and they're using
exactly.
and that I've noticed that when I'm in Italy and everything is owner operated, like I go in, I've got
Mhm.
relationships with people,
Yeah,
and if for some reason it's not owner operated, they know the owner and that like
yeah,
it's just one more step and people actually care and it's the human relationships and the closer they are to their customer, they tend to care about their customer more, right? Because they want you to keep coming back and they are human. so
yeah,
so I'm always for supporting, smaller entities and like thank you for what you do. I appreciate your time and sharing
yeah,
what you know and I'm glad that you're passionate about the food. We need more people who are passionate about what our
oh
country is being fed, whether it's fed here or fed here.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, and remember, I just want to leave off with every day, 3 times a day, you need a farmer. So support your farm. No matter how much money you've got or how much money you're making, you can't eat money. You can eat food. So people support your local farmers because we are not paid anywhere near what we're worth, considering we know how to grow you food. You know,
and is farming your main source of income or is that like your source of business?
unfortunately, it is right now, which is why I'm poor as hell. I don't have a lot of money right now. I'm working right now. I have decided because I like foraging so much, it's my mission this spring to make that my main business. I go to people's houses and I'll take them around their backyard or their farm, wherever they are. I don't care if you've got a little quarter of an acre property or if you've got 10 acres, whatever. I will come to you and I will take you around and show you all the stuff that's edible and medicinal growing right in your own backyard. And I
Oh,
love
that's
doing that. I can do
wonderful.
them. Yeah, I do demonstrations. I give people recipes, all kinds of stuff like that. And I love doing that. I do group walks too sometimes. Like people will say, hey, we got like 20 of us. Can we do something for you? And we find a local farm or we find a state park and I take them and all we do is we walk the trails, we walk and I was like, this is what this is. This is what this is. This is what this is. Oh, what's this? And I start asking, they ask questions and I explain the medicinal and edible value of each thing that we find. So, um, oh,
That's
I'm in
lovely.
Connecticut. Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
I
working in
love doing
food
that.
and
That's my favorite thing to do.
education is really wonderful. So thank you for everything. Thank you for sharing with us. And your username, do you want to share your username with everybody? So in
I'm
case they don't follow you yet.
at the original Meal Chan. It's kind of weird. At the original, you can do that much, and it's Meal Chan, Mealchan, and that's just a nickname I had in high school. So
Wonderful. And my
yeah.
username is at curvythinking.com. So if anyone on your channel is interested in Italy, traveling, and just life in
Mhm.
general. But anyway,
Yep.
it was wonderful to chat with you, wonderful to meet you live.
Yes, thank you. It was nice. It was nice meeting you. And we can do this again sometime if anybody acts like they're interested. I'm happy to do this again.
Sounds good. Have a good
All right.
rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for tuning in.